Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into a curious concept that sounds almost like a strange new side hustle, but it's actually a very real, documented process we've seen play out recently on social media. We're talking about the James Charles cycle.
It really is a phenomenon observed for years, cycling through these controversies and outcomes. But what truly sets it apart, I think, is how this pattern consistently seems to reward James Charles. It turns even really severe situations into, fuel for his ongoing relevance.
Yeah.
This isn't just like surviving a scandal. It feels more like a masterclass in monetizing.
That's precisely what we're here to explore today. Our mission really is to unpack what this cycle truly is, its distinct stages, how it repeatedly allows James Charles to maintain relevance despite, constant stream of negative headlines.
Yeah, and what does this whole phenomenon reveal about, social media culture, our collective memory?
Right, and even critical thinking in this digital age. You, our listener, you might have observed this pattern unfolding without maybe fully understanding the mechanics behind it.
Or maybe you've just questioned why certain public figures seem to, defy the usual rules of accountability.
We're about to try and uncover why this happens.
So to define it, the James Charles cycle, it's a process that's been pretty thoroughly analyzed. It shows this consistent, almost predictable pattern over years of his controversy. It's almost like a form of public amnesia, isn't it?
It really is quite a pattern. And our deep dive today suggests it breaks down into 4 distinct stages. So how do these stages typically unfold? Okay,
so stage 1 is basically peak popularity. This is when James Charles is doing really well, experiencing significant success on social media. He's often getting, high views on platforms like TikTok. Things are undeniably going smoothly for him.
Okay, so peak popularity. Then what's the inevitable next step in this cycle? How does stage 2, the controversy and cancellation, usually show up?
Right, stage 2. This is where James does something, engages in an action that triggers pretty widespread public outrage. And this leads to attempts to cancel him.
Yeah.
What's really notable here, and the sources emphasize this, is just the sheer breadth of his controversy. It could be, almost anything from past issues like messaging people, remember that?
Yeah.
To the infamous Venom gummies incident.
Oh, yeah.
Or getting involved in other situations he maybe shouldn't have been. He's, as one source nicely put it, done it all.
And that naturally pushes us into stage 3, public fury. This is when you see that huge outrage erupt across the internet.
Right.
There's this palpable sense that, okay, this time his career is finally over. You see people in comments asking, did y'all forget about what James Charles did? It genuinely feels in that moment like this is the end for him.
But then, remarkably, we hit stage 4, apology and forgiveness.
Yeah.
Or, maybe more accurately, amnesia.
Right, amnesia seems fitting.
James issues an apology, and this can take one of 2 forms. Either a flat-out apology or, interestingly, an apology that also subtly shifts blame at other individuals.
Oh, okay.
And what's particularly intriguing and frankly kind of baffling is that the second approach to the apology with blame that usually goes down much, much better for James. People eventually just seem to forget. They go back to consuming his content and boom, we're cycling right back to stage 1.
But here's the critical question. How does this cycle consistently benefit James Charles? He's been involved in pretty much every single YouTube cardinal sin, right? Yet he just continues to get away with it.
Yeah, a key observation from our sources is the sheer volume and frequency of his controversies. It feels like something every single week.
Yeah.
This rapid succession means, human brain can't really concentrate on one thing for so long. It just leads to a public forgetting of past incidents.
And that's where the crucial difference lies. Unlike typical influencers who might get defined by one massive scandal, James's unique pattern of doing everything just makes it incredibly hard to keep track with.
Exactly. And our sources point out this paradox they call the James Charlesification of social media. He openly thrives off the controversy. He thrives off the drama.
So it doesn't matter.
Well, it means whether people call him out or if they stay silent, he kind of wins regardless. It's this truly inescapable cycle.
Okay, let's make this concrete. To really illustrate this, let's unpack a specific case, the Kayla, Malik, and Evan Johnson.
Right. This was an incredibly dark and serious event. Evan Johnson, who was Kayla's ex-partner, he went to jail for terrible things he did to Kayla.
And what makes James Charles's involvement here so troubling is that Kayla herself actually informed him about Evan's actions.
Yeah, she told him directly.
Yet, shortly after that conversation, James flew Evan out to his house, hung out with him for a weekend, and apparently even gave him advice on the whole.
It really did look like James Charles was seemingly on the side of an absolutely horrific human being.
Yet, despite his deep involvement in what many would consider, completely career-ending situation,
he was absolutely loved again just a few weeks later. It's a really stark example of stage 4 of the cycle just playing out perfectly.
But let's contrast James's experience here with Kayla Malik. Kayla, the actual victim in this scenario, she's been receiving a large amount of harassment in her TikTok comments just for speaking about her experiences.
Yeah, the sources point to specific, really disturbing comments. Things like, "Let it go, please.
Yeah.
It's been 2 months, wrap it up.
Wow.
I think she misses him." And even unbelievably, "Free Evan." And what stands out here is the bizarre perception that quickly seemed to take hold. The idea that Kayla Malik was actually the one in the wrong in this situation, and James Charles has done nothing wrong.
How does that even happen?
Well, James's comment section stayed notably clean, No criticism about his involvement. It created this impression that if anyone was canceled in this situation and story, it was actually weirdly Kayla Malik.
This whole situation really shines a light on a much broader problem, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It shows the cycle's ability to sort of desensitize so many people to real situations that affect real people. It makes normal drama seem indistinguishable from truly serious events. Our sources highlight what they call a misogynistic, horrible community on TikTok that often targets victims like Kayla.
And there's that concerning prediction mentioned too, right? That Evan Johnson might actually...
Yeah, and that people might even side with him just because online discourse often prioritizes who responded last over, fact and truth.
Scary thought.
Another revealing case study, though maybe less severe, involves the tactile paving controversy, the blind people bumps.
Right. This incident really highlights that sort of casual dismissal that James Charles posted a TikTok video where he complained about stupid-ass bumps on sidewalks.
Yeah. Outside grocery stores and airports.
He questioned their purpose, how inconvenient they were, saying things like, "Why on God's green earth, if I just spent $200 on groceries, would I want to roll them over those bumps and give my entire cart a seizure?
And why am I going to sit there and roll my luggage over that and have everything like jumping around inside?" It's literally having a seizure, just completely oblivious.
And this instantly caused a lot of controversy, right? Clearly stage 2 of the cycle.
Absolutely. People suggested he was being ableist.
Yeah.
And there's just widespread confusion that he didn't know the purpose of these really common structures.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Right. And just for context, these yellow bumps are tactile paving. They were originally designed in Japan way back in 1965 to help people with visual impairment navigate safely, especially at road crossings.
And the blind community quickly weighed in on TikTok, didn't they?
They did. Many users explained how crucial these bumps are for their safety, knowing when the sidewalk ends that way, we don't go walking in the middle of the street.
Makes perfect.
But what's particularly telling about the cycle, though, is that even one blind creator, after explaining their purpose, still ended his video saying, "I'm going to forgive James Charles."
Wow, even then. So what was James's response to all this?
Well, he did, after all of the criticism, delete his TikTok out of pure, sheer embarrassment. And then he issued an apology, directly hitting stage 4 again, basically saying, "Guys, I'm so sorry I didn't know this very obvious thing."
So despite this being, an obvious thing to so many people, people still forgave him. It just illustrates how the cycle's going.
Yeah, and our sources even raised the possibility. Could this relatively minor controversy have actually been a deliberate marketing technique?
How so?
To sort of bury all of the previous controversies in the search algorithm?
Yeah.
Push the more serious incidents further down, out of public view?
That's a cynical thought, but maybe plausible.
It's something to consider. And it's crucial, I think, to really unpack James Charles's strategy here and its broader impact. He often claims he wants to be uncanceled.
Right.
But in the larger picture, our sources suggest this is kind of an illusion. He's still a millionaire, living in a big swanky mansion, getting millions upon millions of views per video. So to claim to want to be uncanceled in an era where you can literally do the worst possible things and still thrive on social media is just hilarious, as one source put it.
And this gets to a really fascinating point. What does James Charles actually offer his audience that makes them look past everything?
That's a great question. Our sources really question it. They contrast his vague selling a makeup palette every 6 months approach with other influencers who have really clear niches like, commentary videos, true crime, AI stuff.
Right, a clear value proposition.
Exactly. Yet he still secures big collaborations, like with a recent Love Island star, despite these constant negative headlines. It just truly highlights the powerful insulating effect of this cycle.
So how does he do it? Is it manipulation?
Well, this brings us to what's described as his consistent chain of gas, the idea that he has successfully convinced the internet that he is in the right.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Like on the Saving Grace podcast, he sort of conflated serious cancellations with just being easily offended in America versus the UK, which significantly misrepresents the true nature of his controversies, some of which were described as incredibly immoral, borderline illegal.
Exactly. And that mischaracterization of Jenna Marbles' departure, that's another prime example of his pattern of manipulation.
Definitely. He claims she was canceled when, as our sources clearly point out, she optionally chose to voluntarily.
It feels like part of a larger pattern, like how he handles articles that James Charles would like to be uncancelled one.
Right, or his history of deleting and then re-uploading apology videos, but with slightly changed narratives. It all seems meticulously crafted to benefit himself.
And then there's the shift in persona.
Ah, yes. Perhaps the most telling thing is his shift to what's described as a Homelander-like persona, almost like a villain embracing the public disdain.
Homelander from The Boy. Wow.
Yeah. He openly admitted on his second account that he doesn't care about criticism because, quote, it pays my bills for the last 9 years. He even states that his critics are the reason that I'm relevant.
That's incredibly brazen.
And he doubled down on this in an interview, remarkably admitting he is the boy who cried wolf.
He actually said that.
He did. And if you think about the moral of that fable, lying can destroy trust, and when you need help, people won't believe you if you have a reputation for dishonesty.
It's truly baffling that he could admit that and still successfully promote his music afterwards.
All right. And if you look at an analysis of his song, Can We Just Be Friends, it surprisingly kind of avoids addressing the alleged criminal actions or the really serious controversies.
So what does it do instead?
It frames his narrative in a way that, as our sources note, is like another artistic way to showcase his story and gaslight the audience, effectively repositioning himself as just misunderstood rather than accountable.
So zooming out from James Charles specifically, what does this pattern suggest about the current online environment?
Well, our sources kind of lament how the 15-second algorithm might have corrupted critical thinking skills, leading to a generation that seems to crave virtual blood and drama.
Making it harder to tell the difference.
Exactly, making it increasingly difficult to distinguish between real serious situations and just, sloppy situations from the past.
So what does this all mean for us then, for people observing this? It leads to this really perplexing paradox, doesn't it?
It really does. Continuing to talk about James Charles and his heinous action inadvertently brings him popularity and keeps the cycle going.
Right, but ignoring him just allows him to get away with it.
Our sources basically acknowledge that there isn't a clear, outright answer to this dilemma. It's tricky. The key insight here, though, is that James Charles is clearly very, very savvy on social media. He knows how to get people talking.
But maybe more importantly.
Exactly. But more importantly, he knows how to get people to stop talking about specific things. He genuinely does not mind being criticized and mocked because ultimately, it just fuels his success.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it seems clear the James Charles cycle is a powerful, almost inevitable force in online culture.
Yeah, it's a real testament to how complex and, frankly, often contradictory the mechanisms of social media truly are.
Which raises a pretty important question for you, our listener, to think about.
What does this cycle reveal about the broader landscape of social media? Consider how these platforms shape our collective memory, how they influence critical thinking.
And how accountability for public figures is defined or maybe redefined online.
And ultimately, what role do we as consumers of content play in either perpetuating these kinds of cycles or maybe potentially breaking them?